Hello to all my friends around the world, how are you? After we were previously presented with a variety of intense and suspenseful films, now is the time to take a breath, relax, and take a break from the hustle and bustle of heavy flow. This time, we will look at a movie called Evidence, released in 2012. This story tells the story of four teenagers who decide to camp in the middle of the forest, then faced with a series of terrible events. At first glance, it sounds like an old concept, but trust me, the plot will feel different from similar movies in general. Moreover, this movie uses a found footage style, or you could say a fake documentary style, which makes the viewing experience feel more real and intense. So, prepare your headset, sit comfortably, because this movie will give you goosebumps. Happy watching and hopefully entertained. The movie is set in the United States and focuses on four urban teenagers who plan to spend time in an unusual place. They are Ryan the recorder, Brand, who has a pretty face and is also Brett's lover, and Abby, Ryan's girlfriend. The four agree to take a vacation by camping in a forest near a hilly area, hoping to get a unique experience and at the same time find a suitable place, well, to do naughty things. After arriving at their destination, they parked their car on the side of the road, hidden behind some bushes. Then they started walking into the not-so-lush but quite natural forest. Notably, none of them had any experience in mountaineering or finding the ideal camping spot. They passed a small river with a calm flow, and after about 35 minutes of walking, they finally arrived at the camping site. Honestly, the place was far from beautiful. The scenery was only filled with trees and shrubs that grew improperly. But yes, indeed, their main goal was not to refresh their eyes but to satisfy other desires. Soon, night fell over the forest. Like most teenagers, they sat around the campfire, killing time with silly games that had no clear purpose.
We weren't even a little bit scared at all.
The relaxed atmosphere was suddenly disturbed when suddenly, as predicted, a strange sound came from the darkness. Not knowing what the source was, they chose not to bother and immediately rested so they could wake up early the next day. Morning was approaching. Without having time to clean themselves, let alone wash their faces, the four of them decided to explore the surrounding area to find a more interesting spot. The exploration took them to the edge of a ravine, where their gaze fell on a mysterious black figure in the distance. At first they thought it was just a pile of bushes or even a discarded item like an empty gallon. But upon closer inspection, anxiety began to creep up on them.
No, it's a fucking...
Oh my God!
While the others were scared, Ryan, the cameraman, was driven by curiosity and headed down the slope to check out the object. However, when he got there, he found nothing. Finally, he climbed back up after Brett called him and asked them to leave the place immediately.
Get out of your mind, man! Get out of the ravine! I don't feel safe down here.
Brett's concerns grew when Ryan insisted on staying behind to complete his documentary film project. He was worried because he knew that curiosity was often the beginning of disaster. Brett's request to go home was flatly rejected by Ryan. Realizing his lover's anger, Ryan tried to calm the atmosphere by offering a bottle of liquor to Brett and the others. This strategy also succeeded in easing the tension. Even Brett's girlfriend, Brand, got stoned and became the butt of their jokes that night.
Honey, oh my God.
However, the night was disturbed again. This time there were animal sounds coming from the darkness. They are still relaxed, thinking it's just the sound of ordinary wild animals that live in the forest. But the atmosphere became a little tense when a strange man suddenly appeared from nowhere.
Hello there!
The man claimed to be looking for his lost pet dog. But what made the atmosphere uncomfortable was a gun that appeared to be tucked into his waistband. Although he didn't show any suspicious behavior, his presence still made Ryan and his friends feel wary. Shortly after, the man excused himself to continue his search, leaving them still suspicious. About an hour later, Ryan's curiosity became unstoppable. He decided to walk through the forest alone, feeling that something wrong was going on behind the dark trees. Before leaving, he asked Abby to keep the camera on and not to leave the tent under any circumstances. Shortly after Ryan disappeared into the forest, Ebi suddenly screamed in panic when his tent was shaken by someone from outside. The scream woke up Brett, who immediately rushed over to the tent and checked the surroundings with the help of the light from the camera. In the darkness, his gaze was drawn to some strange writing carved into a tree trunk, such as the phrase, "What is that?" No one knows who wrote them, but the messages are enough to make Ebi tremble with fear. Brett tried to calm Ebi down while waiting for Ryan to return. Meanwhile, the camera they had set up on a tripod continued to record from a distance, until suddenly there was a loud crash as if something had hit the camera.
Abby, get the camera!
The situation was getting tense. They agreed to immediately return to the car. However, on the way to the vehicle, the shadow that had been lurking again showed itself and terrorized them, making everyone panic and run as hard as they could. Once in the car, they thought they were safe, but the mysterious creature was still following them, even jumping onto the roof of the car.
Abby, get away from the door!
How surprised they were when they realized that the figure who climbed the car was Ryan, who had just returned from the forest. He catches up with them breathlessly and claims not to have met anyone around the tent. However, Brett insisted that the figure who jumped onto the roof of the car was not Ryan. The realization dawned, they weren't alone in that place, something was after them. Finally, Brett and the others agreed to return to the city immediately. But, as usual, Ryan again became an obstacle. He refused to leave because their belongings were still left at the tent site. Reluctantly, the others agreed to Ryan's proposal. They would spend the night in the car and return to the tent the next morning to pick up the items left behind. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a bad decision.
Give me the camera. You will wait till the morning and get it then.
The next morning, the atmosphere turned chaotic when Brand was seen frantically yelling for Brett, who suddenly disappeared somewhere. Ryan, on the other hand, thought that Brett might have gone back to the tent area to retrieve the items. Once they arrived at the campground, they finally found Brett's tent. But unfortunately, all the items that were previously there had disappeared somewhere. From there they concluded that most likely Brett had indeed come to the location first and might have returned to the car through another route.
So, just like I said, he took his pack.
Without wasting time, they immediately rushed back to the car. Along the way, Ebi and Ashley continued to grumble, blaming Ryan for delaying their return to the city last night. But before the anger could subside, they were all stunned to find their car had been smashed and messed up like it had just been attacked by a wild animal. Ryan immediately accused Brett of being the one who did the damage. Filled with anger and determination, Ryan went back into the forest to find Brett and ask for an explanation. Not long after, he heard a strange shout that he thought came from Brett and was probably making fun of him. Without hesitation, he followed the sound until he found something that made his blood run cold. A shoe, complete with a severed foot inside. It was Brett's. Terrified, Ryan decided not to tell Ebi and Ashley anything. He returned to the car with a tense face, then asked them to stay in the car, while he himself would go to the nearest village to seek help. He left the camera in their hands. Time passed until nightfall, and Ryan never returned. Ashley, who was getting anxious, decided to turn off the camera to save the battery, as it was their only source of light. But not long after, suspicious noises from outside began to be heard. Ashley hurriedly turned the camera back on to see what was happening. As they peered through the camera lens from inside the car, a furry creature appeared to be lurking in the darkness of the night. Panicked and without thinking, Ashley and Ebi fled into the forest, leaving their car behind. But their escape was short-lived. Amongst the darkness and leaves, they found something far more horrifying: human intestine. And most horrifyingly, it was Ryan's body, or what was left of it. Now only Ebi and Ashley were left alive, with no one else to rely on. They were forced to keep running relentlessly, trying to escape the monstrous figure that kept chasing them from the darkness. After running without direction, Ashley and Ebi finally arrived at a large area that looked like an open field. A speaker suddenly sounded, warning that the area was a restricted zone and should not be entered. While trying to understand the meaning of the warning, suddenly the monstrous creature reappeared and immediately lunged at Ashley from the side. They panicked again and continued their escape until they arrived at an empty house. Behind the house, they found a stable that still had a live horse in it. But when he saw the back door open, Abby made a stupid mistake, like the cliched decisions of the characters in horror movies, by entering without thinking. As a result, they had to keep running again, this time towards another empty house that also seemed to have been recently abandoned by its occupants. Instead of immediately entering and looking for a safe place, they talked for a while and observed the surroundings, wasting precious time. When they were finally on the second floor and saw the exit, Ashley did the unexpected again. She opened the door, and they both accidentally fell into a basement. Down there, they found a long, dark, and suspicious hallway. Since it was impossible to go back upstairs, they decided to explore the passage. The hallway led to a large open space. They didn't know what this place was, but the atmosphere was tense again when suddenly some people with crazy behavior appeared and immediately chased them. In the midst of the panic, a soldier appeared who managed to save them both and take them out of the place. The escape wasn't over yet. In a thrilling chase scene, the vehicle they were traveling in had an accident and crashed into something. With no other choice, Abby and Ashley follow the soldier into an old building that appears to be an office, who knows what office. Inside the office, they find someone who claims to be the only staff member who survived this mysterious incident. At least now they were no longer alone in this horrific situation. But when asked about what exactly happened, the person refused to explain and just told them to keep moving. They finally arrive at what looks like a secret laboratory, filled with protective plastic curtains hanging everywhere. Inside, they witnessed a horrifying scene, a pregnant woman giving birth to a creature that looked extremely inhuman. Managing to survive the horrific event, they continued on and found a dazed-looking man sitting on a chair. Shortly after, some soldiers arrived, apparently sent to evacuate. But that hope was instantly dashed when the beast reappeared and mercilessly slaughtered all the soldiers to death. Amidst the chaos, Abby, Ashley, and the office staff quickly hid in a small post. Unfortunately, a grenade suddenly entered and exploded not far from them. The trio tried to escape, but unfortunately for the staffer, he was killed by the explosion. Before he breathed his last, he had told Abby and Ashley to get up the stairs to the evacuation point, because the rescue helicopter was coming soon. With their remaining strength, Abby and Ashley ran upstairs. But tragically, Abby was hit by a stray bullet as the chaos continued. Now, Ashley is the only one who manages to board the rescue helicopter. From above, it's revealed that the place they've been traveling to is a secret government facility hidden underground, the site of a terrifying experiment that turned into a catastrophe. The end. The ending, well, let's just say it's quite confusing. Many important things are not explained at all. What creatures are chasing them, what experiments are actually being conducted, and how all this can happen, all of which are left unanswered until the end of the movie. On behalf of the entire crew and production directors, I would like to thank you for tuning in to the end.